Welcome, everybody, to the Seattle Sports Union podcast. My name is Abraham DeWeese. I'm back again with the Southwest Seahawk Rob English and the Savage Nathan Savage. Guys, we're on the precipice of the Super Bowl, one which I'm trying to get myself interested and excited about. Guys, is it me or is this just not as... This one doesn't kind of have the oomph that they usually do?
I think it might just be you, Abe.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Well, I would say that it does almost seem like a rinse and repeat. You know what I mean? It's like I would have rather seen either of the other two potential teams in this game on Sunday. It's just I'm tired of seeing the same old story, listening to the same old song. I guess Philly getting in there this time, when they've fallen short recently is kind of a change. But the Kansas City Patrick Mahomes is, they're just always there. So it is a little bit of it's getting a little getting a little monotonous.
So Nathan, you wanted this rematch of what was it, 4 or 5 years ago?
No, not. I would say the part that's exciting isn't really necessarily about that. It's more there's kind of this sacred holy grail. I don't know, something like that is how I would call it, a holy grail in sports of winning the three-peat. It just so rarely happens, a few times in our lifetime, and that's on the table this weekend. And I think
Right.
there's a lot of hype for that. Whether or not it's related to the team, I don't know too much about that. I think, winning is going to bring you a lot of fans. I think just more than anything, fans want to know, can a team three-peat in the NFL? And to me, that's just very excited. I as much as I dislike Kansas City, as much as I'm tired of Kansas City, I'm feeling a lot of hype of, is this really going to happen? Are we going to watch a three-peat in the NFL finally? And yeah, I'm actually feeling pretty excited for it. I'm going to be rooting for the team going for the three-peat, not to win, but that's something exciting to root for as well. So yeah, I'm feeling a lot of buzz
All right.
from myself, and it seems like people around me as well for this Super Bowl.
Okay, I guess it's not. I guess it's just me then. But I don't know. First of all, it's happened in the NFL before, but you're talking about in our lifetime in
the Super Bowl era. Is that the way they word it? Yeah.
In the Super Bowl era, sure. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you look across sports, what do we have to look at? We have to look at the 90s Bulls, the 60s Celtics, baseball. Has anybody three-peated in baseball since the Yankees?
Yeah, I know. I think they're talking about the most recent one is the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe is the last.
Did they get 3 in a row?
I think so, yeah. I think that's the last three-peat.
Okay, maybe it's just basketball that it's
Yeah.
doable. Well, I don't know. The three
makes it easier when it's 5 players versus 11 players or 9 players.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about keeping the team together, because this Chiefs team, why is it? Again, let me just ask: is this me? Does this seem like the least good? I don't know. That's not the right way to put it. I don't think this is the best Chiefs team in the last 3 years.
It's strange because at the end of last year, when they hoisted the Lombardi Trophy, I had said that was going to be their last year. They had stumbled and struggled during the middle latter part of the season, and kind of just, maybe didn't stumble into the playoffs, but they certainly didn't look like the strong Kansas City team that we were used to heading into the playoffs. So once they got there, they just did Kansas City Chiefs stuff and obviously won the Super Bowl. But I had said, once the season resets, everybody goes back to 0-0, we won't see the Chiefs in the Super Bowl again this year, and they proved me wrong. What's strange about it is that they won even more games this year than last year, but they won them differently, right? Like the games they were winning before, they were winning games, and now this year they were just eking out games, just squeezing through and looking not all that super impressive. But you look at the body of work as a whole, you can't argue with 15-2. they were getting some ugly wins. And it's really hard to, when you think about it, which one's more valuable, pretty wins for a lesser win total, or 15 ugly wins. I don't know which one means more, but at the end of the day, they ended up back in the Super Bowl. So, I mean, maybe it's 6-1.
Nathan, is this a better Chiefs team than previous years, or is this the worst?
I'm starting to want to say yes. I think there's like a couple stats for me that are making me want to say yes, and that is that Patrick Mahomes hasn't lost a game by more than one score since I think 2020 now, and that this team has won every single one score game since last year. And here we are in the playoffs where it's all about these close one score games, and they just seem to, in the weirdest, I don't know how they do it. I mean, I think it's a lot of coaching. I think it's a lot of having the best quarterback in the NFL, but they want to play in a one score game basically, because it's at this point, I don't even know if you can say it's too small of a sample size. Like, it's over a season now where they've won every single one score game. I don't know what details they figured out, but I am almost more impressed by this team because it is a game of inches with this team more than any other team I've seen in Kansas City, where their roster is just, it's not winning by the margins that it used to. Guys are not getting open the way they used to. It's all about the details, and it's actually been really interesting for me to watch. And honestly, a pretty exciting football. I'd rather watch a lot of one score games than blowouts, especially for all those teams I thought were about to finally beat the Chiefs and shut them up. It was actually pretty exciting to watch, even though it never ended up happening. And I think it's just the body of work is now there. They've gone an entire season where they haven't lost a single one score game.
So then
and that's how you win a Super Bowl.
I will say that you guys are not very good college football fans, because if you're college football fans, you'd care more about the strength of schedule and the margin of victory.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the NFL, though, right?
Isn't that a weird thing? Isn't that just the weirdest damn thing?
Honestly,
I think just in the NFL, you have to beat everyone, in my opinion, basically to get in.
Yeah, I think I agree with you guys.
Like through the gauntlet, getting into the Super Bowl, the Eagles deserve a Super Bowl, the Chiefs deserve a Super Bowl. I think that's one nice thing about the NFL is there's not a lot of conversation of too often saying, "Oh, there's a very easy road to the Super Bowl." It's usually a pretty stacked gauntlet to get there.
I think what you guys have said, maybe I changed my mind a little bit. Maybe I don't care how you got there. The fact that the Chiefs are 15-2, I think it is, over this year. I mean that.
And one of those, they're resting their starters against Denver to end the year. They're playing their backups.
Right.
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed that is, the Chiefs always get a lot of kudos for their offense. Not a lot of people talked about their defense. Their defense doesn't really give up that many points. True, their offense hasn't scored as much as they usually have in the past, but half the game is making sure the other side, the other team doesn't outscore you, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like their defense is kind of sneaky good. But yeah, no, they haven't been a team that's put up big points like they're used to, or like we're used to seeing. Which makes it a very interesting, matchup here going up against Philadelphia, who, we know their offense can be, explosive. So it really sets the stage for a pretty entertaining game.
Yeah, I just am such a big fan of the coaching on the Chiefs. It's their coach Spagnuolo is just unreal. I think he would be a head NFL coach if he hasn't already kind of said that he wants to stay with Andy Reid and be his defensive coordinator. And we saw last year when they went through the gauntlet, and I think their offense was even struggling a little bit more last year. I could be wrong, but they had to go on the road for the whole playoffs last year, go to the Super Bowl, play one of the most stacked offenses I feel like I've ever seen, and they just outcoached them. And that's what it's been a lot of for me on defense this year, and why I'm probably most nervous for the Eagles is the Eagles have a pretty one-dimensional offense, I would say in general, currently. And, maybe they'll make some adjustments for the Super Bowl, but the king of making those defensive adjustments right so far has been the Chiefs and Spagnuolo, and they just getting 2 weeks to prepare. So many parts of this Super Bowl kind of process, I think, benefit this Chiefs team.
Well, now Spagnuolo was a head coach.
I mean, currently,
going back.
He's been getting a lot of attention. I think he said he wants to stay with Andy Reid for now.
I think I wanted to say, isn't he a little too old? But then Pete Carroll goes and gets hired at the Raiders, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, you guys. Chris Jones, I remember years ago he was considered a out of control, not playing to the whistle, but past the whistle, and Chris Jones seems to have anchored that team, and nobody's talking about him.
Yeah, I mean, he's arguably, one of the better defensive linemen out there. Yeah, there was a time where he seemed to be a bit of a loose cannon. But I think, with experience and age and maturity, he has become really like you said, you might call him the glue on that defense and the veteran presence. So yeah, and that's kind of what makes a difference. You look at, not to be a homer, but look at when Seattle was good. We had some really good veteran presence, particularly on the defensive line. And it galvanized, that team and that defense and took us to the level that we got to. So, yeah, big ups to him.
Yeah, I think, how do you get to a three-peat? How do you get to 3 in a row? And I think part of it is having guys who don't ever lose that hunger. And we saw Chris Jones after they beat Buffalo, head in his hands, super emotional, crying as if it was his first trip to the Super Bowl ever. And I really think those type of details or those type of emotions, they just matter so much. It's just still so crazy for me that an NFL team can keep that hunger. We saw with the Niners what happened when they fell apart this year. A lot of those players,
started looking.
I guess you could say it's easier when you're winning, but it's just so hard to get all your players to go all in for another season and go through all the hardship that it takes to win a Super Bowl and then do it again and then do it again. And I think for me, Chris Jones is one of those guys who's front and center there, huge leader for them, defines their defense. And I think every team would like a player like him on their team.
All right. Who here would not want to be Trent McDuffie out of UW, cornerback for the Chiefs? 3 years, 3 Super Bowl appearances.
I mean, talk about an easy job, right? He barely laces his cleats up. I don't even know if he's probably never had his helmet on the sideline at any point this season, I don't think. So, and he still gets a ring. It's I don't know. It might be kind of bittersweet. I got 3 Super Bowls. Oh yeah, how many touchdowns you throw? Well, how many completions do you have? Well, but he's got the ring. So
well, no, he's a cornerback. I mean, that's not like he's gonna worry too much about not getting all the credit that anybody else, Kelsey or Mahomes gets. I mean, I think he's the best cornerback on that team too. I mean,
yeah, he's a baller.
Yeah. So, but I don't know. I just kind of feel like, what do you do from there when you're 5 years or 4 years, whatever it is, for your rookie contract? You get to pretty much set your rates, don't you?
I think, they lost one of the guys last year as well. But they've had their corners are really good. I think last year, maybe a little more so than this year, but it just really felt like their secondary shuts things down, especially over the top. And I can't remember who it was who left last year, but he got a huge payday, and I'm sure McDuffie will get his as well. Probably not on the Chiefs, just with the way their salary cap is set up. But I think the second you leave the Chiefs, you're probably going to get a little bit depressed because not a lot of organizations are like that. But I'm sure the the green surrounding you, all those $100 bills will probably make things a little bit easier of a transition. But I want to know what happens to these, successful from day one rookies when they have to leave the Chiefs organization. Do they go to some of these teams and wonder why this coach is anywhere near an NFL roster, or why this GM has a job, or
Right.
or why this owner should be spending his money in Vegas instead of
Yeah, maybe you just
on a football team. So yeah,
maybe just go somewhere, get a ton of money, and just sit back on your rings and say it was fine.
yeah.
Hey,
Hey,
so just,
my bad, Abe. I brain farted on Trevor. I don't know why I was thinking quarterback.
Oh,
You know,
no.
I was thinking backup quarterback. I
no.
had a brain fart there. Sorry about that.
No,
Everything you were saying anyway was making sense because, man, being the backup to Mahomes has got to be a great job in football.
Right.
Yeah,
That's what I was talking
a great
about.
job.
being
Yeah.
Carson, would it be Carson Wentz?
It is Carson Wentz.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's got to be the world's easiest job, right?
Right. Not
Oh,
sure
yeah.
how I thought
And
I
a
was
great
thinking about
job.
there, but
Yeah.
He might get 2 Super Bowl rings just by being a backup. We're sitting on,
Yeah.
but
He might win one for the Eagles and against the Eagles.
that could be interesting.
Right.
Both on the bench, though. Yeah.
Just a quick note from our producer, the Soul Man Brian Solak. Other teams that have three-peats are the 72 to 74 Oakland Athletics, not Sacramento, not at that time. And we also have the 81 through 83 New York Highlanders. And furthermore, because he is a Cougar, the Soul Man wants us to know that Jalen Watson and Jaden Hicks are from Wazoo, and they play on the team too. So,
Nice.
yes.
Yeah. So it sounds like they're up maybe 2-1 on
The
Huskies
Cougars are 2-1 on
on the Super
Huskies,
Bowl.
yeah. But I mean, yeah, like you could think about it, like Sauce Gardner over at the Jets. He's doomed to mediocrity for the rest of his contract, right? So
Yeah.
Oh well,
Until he joins a different team. Yeah.
right.
Until he leaves New
A
York.
couple years from now. All right, the
Yeah.
Eagles, not the Eagles, but the Eagles, as the Philly fans would say. They have the number 1 defense in the league, but they don't really have a guy with more than 10 sacks. And it just makes me kind of wonder, like with, Zach Bond, with Jalen Carter, with those DBs like Darius Slay, CJ Gardner, etc. They kind of seem a little Legion of Boom-esque, don't they? No?
I don't know if I'd go that far. Maybe that's just me just loving my Seahawks too much. I'm like, you got to really show me. You got to show me something really, really good before I'm gonna, anoint you with that label. But
Like
they're very good.
They would need to do a 48-12 beatdown, right?
Yes, something like that.
Yeah.
They need to have some scary, strong safety come down there and lay out one of the biggest guys on that offense. So they need some action like that.
But yeah, man, their drafting, probably coaching is helping that too, but their defensive drafting, they're finding the most insane value. They have a white corner because no one wanted to draft a white corner. They got him at the end of the first round. He's balling out. They have, the situation surrounding Carter is very sad, but he fell to them. They were able to get him to, put his head on his shoulders straight and focus on football, it seems. And he's been just maybe not getting the sacks, but he's been just blowing up plays, getting pressure on the quarterback over and over up the middle.
First team All-Pro,
yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And just I think they're probably not playing the same level of quarterbacks, I'll say, in the AFC or in the NFC that they'd be playing in the NF or in the they're playing in the NFC that they'd be playing in the AFC, like Mahomes, Jackson, Burrow, Allen, MVP today, Josh Allen, and so that might factor in a little bit, but at the same time they're just very, very solid. I think the Legion of Boom maybe is more famous for the back end. I would say for me when I think about this Eagles, it's just front to back, just very, very solid in all phases. You're not gonna really catch them in a weakness. I don't think is this type of team, and they're gonna force you into to playing their style of football.
Any buyer's remorse that the Seahawks did not get Jalen Carter?
No.
You had to think about it for a second.
I had to think about it. Because with that same pick, is that the pick we
Devin
picked?
Witherspoon.
Devin Witherspoon, right? So I mean, it's not like we didn't get a return on investment there. So yeah, no, I don't think because I mean, look at it. We have really our bread and butter on defense has been our secondary. Now if we had Jalen Carter, would he had made enough plays, enough sacks, enough tackles for loss, enough game breaking plays, to affect the defense or affect the offense on defense the way we need to win more? Will we have won more games? I don't know if I believe that. So I think the defense was good, and I think the way that the back end rounds it out is ended up being a better value for us.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's like Jalen Carter's obviously super good, but it's also a perfect fit for him. I think as you see him falling through the first round, similar to what happened to DK, you see this guy falling. You say, "Uh-oh, the Eagles are getting closer and closer." They pull the trigger, and you're like, "Okay, this is going to work out for them." They have a bunch of Georgia players. They're defensive linemen, kind of right now in the NFL. It seems like they just keep having these amazing defensive linemen and know how to develop them. But for me, it's more than anything a product of the system. And I don't know if Carter would have been very successful, or he would have, taken his four-wheeler out and given himself an injury that prevented the rest of his career in the NFL, a la some of the guys the Seahawks have.
Is that what's his name? McDowell? Not McDowell.
Yeah, like
what was his name?
Whoever, I can't remember. It's because it's not Collier either, but he didn't play enough for me to remember his name, I guess.
Is Malik McDowell? Does that sound right?
Maybe it could be.
Was it Malik McDowell?
The second round.
He was just
second round pick, first divorce over. Yeah, it was Malik McDowell.
Yeah.
I got the Forerunner reference. Yes.
Yeah. But he just, I'm worried a guy like that, with some of Seattle's history with off the field issues, you'd hope it would work out very well. But yeah, I'm so happy with Witherspoon. And lot of people, I'm very happy that he found his spot in Philadelphia that works well for him. But I'm not sad that we passed up on him.
A lot of people have said that, Nathan, that the other Georgia players on that team, it was a good thing for him to be with people that kind of kept him in line.
Yeah.
And maybe being picked fifth overall might have fed his ego or something. Yeah. All right, guys, is this Super Bowl a case of does Saquon go for 100 yards? Because I'm looking at it like Saquon, 100 yards, maybe 2 touchdowns, and put this game away. It's the Eagles. What do you guys think?
I say, and I said this before, as Saquon goes, so goes the Eagles. If he has a day like he has shown that he's going to have, right? No one has stopped Saquon, like really all year. 100 yards on the ground, 50 yards, probably between 30 and 50 yards receiving. Like you said, 2 touchdowns I'd give him. Yeah, I think that's going to be it's going to be a hard, a hard thing to deal with for Kansas City to keep up with the scoring. I think what I honestly think is that Philly might come out more balanced. I think at the top of the show, Nathan had said that they're one dimensional, and they have kind of been that way. I wonder if they maybe throw a wrinkle in here and maybe kind of pass to run instead of run to pass here. AJ Brown is going to be, he's still AJ Brown. I wonder if they kind of put Saquon on as a little decoy there for a minute and not give him the ball and then come with it late, and he busts a couple of big ones in this game. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see that. I really in my heart believe Philly takes this one, but I want to see Kansas City win only because I want to see a three-peat.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you're saying, Rob. So I'm just gonna talk for me of what I think it means when Saquon gets 100 yarders. I think that means their O-line dominates, and I think that's going to win the game for the Eagles. If their O-line plays like they have all year, I think they win this game. The stats are pretty ridiculous with it. I think running backs average 1 yard before contact in the NFL. Saquon averaged 2 yards before contact, double the average because of how good the blocking was by their O line, and it's probably maybe one of the best I've ever seen. Just unreal. If they can get to if Saquon gets 100 yards, I think that means the O line is clicking, and that might mean Hurts last game had maybe the best game of the year for him. He was really on. That I think will also be a product of their O line playing super well. So
I was going to
I
ask
think
you that.
yeah.
Jalen Hurts a couple games ago got another concussion or whatever. I know they won't say it's a concussion. We all know it's a concussion. But my question was, do you think he'll be good to go for this game?
I think after that Commanders game, it said a lot. He was their weak link, I think, coming in to the Commanders game. He was the reason, even though I was excited about them and liked their team, he was the reason I was not. I was a little nervous about them beating this Chiefs team, but he just on fire. I mean, everyone was on fire for them, but he just seemed like he figured it out, had a really, really good game, complimented Saquon, just like he's done all year when they were kind of building momentum for the playoffs. And it's a much different team, a much better defense that he's going to be playing this week, but I felt very encouraged. He felt like a much bigger part of the game. It seemed like his head, I don't know if that was concussion related or not, but he just didn't seem like he was part of their game plan or part of the game as much. Last week felt like they kind of opened the floodgates and let him do his thing, and I think that's what makes them my pick as well to win this game is their O-line, and then just that Hurts can potentially be firing on all cylinders.
I'm going to go back to a question I asked at the top of the show. The Chiefs, like I even look at all the things that the pundits say, and everybody's picking the Chiefs. It's almost like 3-1. But I'm not getting a lot of tangible things like the Chiefs will win because of this. Obviously, duh. What I'm getting a lot of is the Chiefs. They just always win in these type of games. Are we again? I just say it again. Like, are we just super dismissive how great Philadelphia's been all season?
No, not at all.
Are we just recognizing the Chiefs win these types of games?
Well, first of all, Abe, you got to remember it's in the script, so it's just what it is,
No, I avoided that the whole show. I'm trying to get past all that. We'll assume it's on the up and up. But
no, it's listen, it's not unlike the Brady situation. Like when Brady was at the top of his game with New England, it didn't matter what the situation was. You were a fool to bet against Brady. And it's the same situation here with Patrick Mahomes. He has proven it time and time again. You're foolish. It doesn't matter what Vegas is thinking or what the situation is with these players and those players and the coaching and everything else and who has a runny nose. Doesn't matter. You're a fool to bet against Patrick Mahomes, and I think that's really what it is. And if you couple that with, I think there is a narrative, and not the script, all right, but there is a narrative about this three-peat. I think that's what that's what drives the engagement. That's probably what's driving, money, and all that. So everybody's attention is on this potential three-peat. So I think that narrative really plays into what we're hearing from the windbags and the pundits out there. They're going to talk. They're probably compelled and almost probably told to talk about it that way.
Yeah, I agree.
They're all picking the Chiefs. What do you think?
I think, yeah, I agree. Like, and a big part of it too is we saw like that Niners team last year might have been the best roster almost I've ever seen assembled, and they beat them. And I actually think it's good for the Eagles. I think coming in as the underdog, as a team that hadn't won the Super Bowl last year, a lot of fresh faces, a lot of guys that could easily get nervous in the bright lights. I think it's really nice for them that they've flown under the radar, and might be another reason they end up winning this game. I agree, though, there's something magical right now in the NFL when you have Hall of Fame coach, best quarterback, and even with the salary cap and all this parity and all this stuff the NFL wants to talk about, it seems like that combo wins a lot of games and wins a lot of Super Bowls. And we're in a league that's supposed to have the most parity. We're seeing these kind of dynasties form. And for me, it's just because if everything else is pretty much a wash, it's that quarterback that comes through. And the way I feel about the Eagles defense is, as good as they sound, Mahomes just seems to figure it out. So
well, here's what I'm going to figure out.
Yeah.
Nathan, are you telling me, Nathan Savage, are you telling me, Abraham DeWeese, to not look at the stats and what the metrics and analytics say, but go with my heart on this one?
Yeah, I think when same thing happened when we watched.
This is being recorded. Yeah. This is the first
same thing happened when we saw Brady win late in his career, and then even in Tampa, it was like, oh, there's no way he's beating the Packers. Like Aaron Rodgers is on too big of a role. It's just not going to happen. Oh, they win that game. Oh, there's no way they're going to beat Mahomes, though. Like they're not going to beat the. I don't even think that game ended up being close. It was a complete blowout. So, yeah, I think there's something to be said in the NFL where there's these intangibles of coaching or just stepping up to the occasion that I really enjoy to watch. And yeah, stats aren't going to help you very much with that.
I would say that, Abe, it's maybe even more just going with your head rather than your heart. I mean, yes, I mean, you know, I'm an IT guy. I'm data and analytics driven, right? So, but you have seen all the same things that we've seen over and over and over again, you know. So, you know, how many times can you see this thing just happen over and over again, and not assume that's going to happen again? Like that, it's almost scientific, right? if it's observable and repeatable, it's a fact, right? So, you know, you got to go with the Chiefs.
No, you don't. I mean, if it's observable and repeatable, the Eagles beat the Chiefs in the last Super Bowl that they faced up against each other. Additionally, if I look,
I think the Chiefs won.
Did the Chiefs win that one?
Yeah,
Who did Philly beat? Who did Philly beat for the
Patriots?
Philly beat New England.
Yeah. Well, that's weirder then, because they beat.
Yeah, but that was a dynasty where we all assumed Tom Brady would win that game, and then the Eagles kind of steamrolled them.
So that proves
that's what I'm hoping for this weekend. Yeah,
that proves my point. Then I wasn't the point I was trying to make, but it proves my point.
Yeah.
All right, last question, guys. We got to wrap it up here. Actually, two questions. One, let's give our predictions. I'll start first, and I got the Eagles winning 35-28. The Soul Man Brian Solak, our producers, got the Chiefs 29-28.
I'm gonna go ahead, and because again, I gotta go with what I've seen. Best quarterback, best coach. I'm going to say 34-31, Kansas City Chiefs.
And Nathan?
Yeah, I think we've seen it lately in Super Bowls. As good as the defenses are, it's the teams, you know, that get to 30 points that are going to win the game. And I think that's going to be the Eagles this game. I think Saquon's just going to hit that another level of a gear that we haven't seen and rise to the occasion. They'll win 31-28.
It'll be fun to watch Philly fans try to climb Lycos. That'll be amazing. All right, last question, guys. How close are the Seahawks to the Super Bowl? Like what you saw this year, 10 wins, not bad. You are what your record says you are, is my opinion on this one. I don't think we're that far off. What do you guys think?
I think that we are only a rung or two. If you're thinking of a ladder, we need one, maybe two rungs up the ladder from, as far as performance goes from the offensive line, and we're in there. We are certainly competing for it. I mean, one more win this year. Take away one of those terrible offensive line games this year, we pull off a win. Maybe say against the Giants, right? and we're in the playoffs. And once you're in the dance, who knows what happens? So yeah, I think Seattle is very close. If we can figure out the offensive line, I tell you, I don't care to see any movement personnel wise, except for offensive line. Like that's if I don't see that first and foremost, I'm going to be very upset about it. So say all that to say, yeah, I think I agree that we are close. It's just a matter of giving Gino just another second in the pocket.
Nathan?
Well, a couple things. It's a bummer. JSN said he was going to retire over last weekend. So, no.
Wait, is there an inside joke here? What?
Oh, yeah, he threw a pick six in the flag football game. They let him play quarterback. He threw a pick six, and he said he was going to retire as a joke. But
gotcha.
He meant retire from quarterbacking.
Okay.
Yeah. But I think it's just so much is about Gino. I do really want to see him with an O-line, but currently, for me, he's not a Super Bowl quarterback yet, and I don't think our roster has enough talent stacked up through really big draft picks and kind of tanking or however you get there to make up for that. I want to see Gino hit a second gear. I don't think he's that far away from it, but yeah, I agree. I want to see the O-line play improve and then see if that means Gino can take us there. But watching the NFC this year has definitely, I don't have the opinion that we're far away after watching the NFC. Watching the AFC, it gets a lot scarier. But it feels like there are a lot of these teams hovering around. And if you can just get the right pieces together, get the O-line to gel, whatever you need, the door's wide open in the NFC. So I think we're right there.
It's funny you say that, though, because I don't see Gino as that far off from Jalen Hurts, to be honest.
Or Goff or Daniels or these other guys, in the NFC. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, you guys got to remember, I mean, he was top 5 in multiple categories most of this season. Mm-hmm. I mean, who is a Super Bowl quarterback until they win a Super Bowl or get to a Super Bowl, right? So, if Gino's not, out of quarterbacks who have never won a Super Bowl or never been to a Super Bowl, who is a Super Bowl quarterback? You know what I mean? That's an arguable point right there. So, Gino was at the top of the league statistically in multiple categories most of this season. And he did that despite having a very low performing offensive line. You just give him an O-line that plays better, give him an extra half a second or even a full second in there. And how many more steps does DK get on his route where he can break open with his world-class speed? I just want to see Gino with time in the pocket.
And I got to give Nathan props. You saw it at the beginning of the season that Grubb was not going to be able to mix well with what the Seahawks had to offer, and what Gino and Grubb did was not good enough. And I think with a better offensive coordinator and quarterback coach and all that good stuff, and like you said, Rob, that offensive line's got to be way better. But I mean, if you get the right mix, if you got someone who knows how to use what Gino can do, why can't Gino be a Jalen Hurts type guy?
Right.
Yeah. I think we saw too with like Washington on the run that you can go on, where they're right there knocking on the door. And they seemed like they were very far away last year. I think right now for me, it's the NFC is that way. If we were in the AFC with Burrow, Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, I'm a little more nervous, but yeah, I agree with everything you're saying. Gino doesn't look that far away from the guys that were front and center from the NFC on the way to going to the Super Bowl this year. So, yeah.
Right on. Well, as always, we like to end our show with shout-outs. I'm going to go ahead and start with the Soul Man, Brian Solak, who wants to give a shout-out to Mike Holmgren, who once again got screwed out of the Hall of Fame. He deserves it. Hopefully next year.
Damn shame.
That's a very good one. What do you guys got for shout-outs?
I will give my shout-out to a certain former NFL player. I was fortunate enough to stop into a local bar here last night, actually, here in Phoenix, Arizona. Just got done in the gym and stopped to have myself one little nightcap. And I bump into Felipe Sparks, former cornerback for the New York Giants.
Wow, that's cool.
I think he finished his career with a couple other teams, but yeah, I bumped into a couple of guys who I'd seen there in the past, and we're talking. And next thing I know, we're talking about how he used to play in this guy over here used to play in the league. And I'm like, oh, really? With who? Like Giants? And I'm like, what's your name? He's like, Spark. I'm like, Felipe Sparks? I was like, no way. I took a picture with him and everything. It was
cool.
awesome. He's a super cool guy.
Awesome. I'm going to give a shout out to our producer, Brian the Soulman Solak. He has a couple of really good guests this weekend. We got Azim Victor from the Huskies, who is now the linebacker coach for the Raiders. So we'll get to talk to him on Saturday.
Oh, wow.
And then we've got we've got Scooter. Remind me the last name, Soulman, from the Aqua Sox, who is going to be I believe, spring training. Reed Van Scooter. That's it. Nathan, your shout out?
I want to shout out. He deserves, a statue outside of their arena at this point. I want to shout out the GM of the Lakers, Rob Pelinka, for convincing the Mavericks that I guess for some reason in the NBA it's points per calorie or points for cholesterol. And 25-year-old Luka, one of the best players we've ever seen, is somehow fat and washed up at the tender age of 25. And yeah, that's one of the craziest trades I've ever seen. Everything surrounding it sounds like the Mavericks owner, I don't know, needs to go in the concussion protocol or just whatever happened to him. I hope he's doing okay, because I cannot believe that just happened. But shout out to the Lakers GM for pulling that off. It's unheard of.
Nathan, your shout outs are always some sort of backhanded slap at somebody. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us here on the show on behalf of Nathan Savage, the Southwest Seahawk Rob English, and the Soulman Brian Solak. My name is Abraham DeWeese. Check out all the great content here on YouTube, on Spotify, on iTunes, and anywhere you get podcasts. And we'll see you guys next time.
Go Hawks.